The Unity Foundation Gala's grand ballrooms sparkled with obscene wealth under crystal chandeliers. 500 of the city's elite had gathered, politicians, moguls, celebrities, all here for the launch of a human development and racism eradication program. At the Correa family's VIP table, 16-year-old Daphne Correa watched a waitress reach past her for an empty glass. The girl's movement was too close. Too familiar. Daphne saw an opportunity. You people should know your place. Daphne Correa's voice cuts through the elegant ballroom like a knife. The 16-year-old's perfectly manicured fingers clutch a crystal goblet filled with Chateau Margaux. 2015, $800 a bottle as she rises from her chair. Cassandra King freezes mid-reach, her hand still extended toward the champagne flute she'd been clearing. Before she can step back, before she can apologize for the minor intrusion into Daphne's space, the wine is already falling. Red liquid cascades in slow motion, splashing across Cassandra's carefully braided hair, streaming down her face, soaking into her white server's uniform. It pools at her collar, drips from her chin onto the marble floor. My mother didn't invite trash like you to stand at her event, Daphne says. Her smile sharp as broken glass. Maybe this will teach you about appropriate behavior. 500 guests in designer evening wear freeze. Phones appear like fireflies in the dimness, but instead of gasps of horror, laughter erupts. Not nervous laughter, genuine, delighted amusement. And leading the chorus is Liliana Correa herself, the guest of honor at the International Human Development Summit's Racism Eradication Program launch, filming her daughter's cruelty on her iPhone, her $15,000 Hermes dress catching the light as she applauds. Darling, you're absolutely wicked. Liliana crows, her voice carrying the casual cruelty of someone who's never faced consequences. But you've made your point beautifully. This is what real class distinction looks like. Cassandra stands frozen, wine dripping from her chin, feeling every eye in the room on her humiliation. Her hands shake not with fear, but with the effort of controlling rage while knowing she can't afford to lose this job. Not when Marcus needs his next round of chemotherapy. Not when his leukemia treatment costs $500 every 2 weeks, and insurance keeps denying coverage. Not when her 12-year-old brother's life depends on her swallowing every indignity and staying invisible. She doesn't know that in exactly 38 seconds, everything in her life will change forever. Because at that moment, the ballroom's grand doors opened, and he walks in. A man whose very presence could silence a room. A man whose single glance could end empires. A man who would change everything. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The alarm screamed at 4:30 a.m., shattering the fragile piece of Cassandra King's dreams. In that dream, Marcus had been healthy again, laughing as he dribbled a basketball down their old driveway, before everything changed. Before the diagnosis, before their parents' car skidded on black ice and slammed into a highway divider 5 years ago, before Cassandra became mother, father, and sole provider to a dying child at 19 years old, she slapped the alarm silent and forced herself upright in the darkness of her studio apartment. The space was barely larger than a hotel room fitting, considering she cleaned hotel rooms for a living. A futon that doubled as couch and bed. A kit ragonette with a hot plate and a mini fridge that hummed too loudly. A bathroom so small she could touch both walls while sitting on the toilet. Rent was $950 a month, which was a miracle in this city, even if the miracle came with cockroaches and a radiator that clanked like it was possessed. By 5:15 a.m., she was dressed in her diner uniform, black pants, white button-down shirt, non-slip shoes that had given up their cushioning 6 months ago. Her natural hair was pulled back into a tight bun, not a curl out of place. She'd learned early that looking professional meant making herself as small and unthreatening as possible. Blend in, be invisible, survive. The hospital was a 10-minute detour on her way to work. She'd built it into her schedule, those precious 20 minutes before her shift when she could sit beside Marcus's bed and pretend everything was normal. Street. Catherine's children's ward smelled like antiseptic and artificial lemon, a combination that now just smelled like home. Marcus was awake when she slipped into his room, his 12-year-old frame looking impossibly small under the white hospital blankets. He smiled when he saw her, that brave smile he'd perfected over 18 months of treatment, the one that said he was fine even when they both knew he was terrified. "Hey, Cassie." His voice was stronger today. "That was good. Hey, baby." She kissed his forehead, careful not to disturb the IV line running into his arm. "How you feeling?" "Okay. The new meds make me less sick." He gestured to the 4 bag hanging beside his bed. "Dr. Schuyler says the treatment's working." As if summoned, Dr. Schuyler appeared in the doorway, her dark face kind but serious. She gestured for Cassandra to step into the hallway. "The experimental treatment is showing positive results, Doctor," Schuyler said without preamble. "His white blood cell counts are improving. The tumor markers are down, but he needs to continue treatment for at least another 6 months, possibly longer." "And insurance?" Cassandra already knew the answer. Denied again. "They're calling it experimental and therefore not medically necessary." Dr. Schuyler's jaw tightened. "The next round of treatment is due in 3 days. Without it," she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. "How much?" $500 for the next treatment, then 500 more every 2 weeks after that. $500. The exact amount she'd earned tonight at the Unity Foundation gala. "I'll have it," Cassandra said. "Friday morning." Dr. Schuyler squeezed her shoulder. "You're a good sister. Marcus is lucky to have you." Cassandra returned to Marcus's room, forcing brightness into her voice. "Dr. O says you're doing great. Couple more months and you'll be back to schoolwork and complaining about homework. And basketball?" Hope lit up his eyes. "And basketball," Cassandra promised, though they both knew it was a lie. "I gotta get to work, but I'll be back tonight, okay? You working all 3 jobs today?" "Just 2. Got something special tonight." She ruffled his hair gently. "Gonna serve fancy food to fancy people." Her mother's voice echoed in her memory, those final words in the hospital before the machines went silent. "Promise me you'll protect him. Promise me you'll keep him safe." "I promise, Mama," Cassandra had whispered. "I'll protect him, always." The diner shift was brutal, a rush of early morning commuters demanding coffee faster than she could pour it. The hotel shift was worse. A wedding party had trashed 3 rooms and left vomit in one of the bathtubs. By 4 p.m., when she finally got home, every muscle in her body screamed for rest. But there was no rest. The Unity Foundation gala started at 7 p.m. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, covering the dark circles under her eyes with drugstore concealer. Her reflection looked back at her 24 years old, but feeling 40. When had the light gone out of her eyes? The catering uniform was crisp and white, pressed carefully the night before. She braided her natural hair into a tight, elegant style. Diamond stud earrings her mother had given her for her 16th birthday, the only jewelry she owned. In the mirror, she looked like exactly what she was: hired help. Background decoration. Invisible labor. "Just one more night," she whispered to her reflection. "Smile. Serve. Survive. Get the money for Marcus. That's all that matters." As she locked her apartment door, Cassandra King had no idea that this wasn't just one more night. That in a few hours, a man she'd never met was about to change her entire world. All she knew was that she needed $500 to save her brother's life. And she'd endure anything to get it. Liliana Correa stood on the terrace of her Belmont Hills mansion, surveying her kingdom with the satisfaction of someone who'd never doubted their right to rule. At 52, she'd perfected the art of appearing younger than her years through regular Botox, a subtle facelift, and a dermatologist on retainer. Her silver hair was styled in elegant waves that cost $400 every 2 weeks to maintain. The Unity Foundation had been her pet project for 3 years, a human development and racism eradication program that looked beautiful on paper and did almost nothing in practice. Most of the donated money went to administrative costs, which was a polite way of saying it went into the pockets of board members who knew how to play the game. Liliana had wanted to be tonight's guest of honor. The problem was that the board had initially selected someone else, a Black woman who'd actually worked in community development, That had been unacceptable. Liliana had made some calls, applied pressure, reminded certain board members of generous donations she'd made, of favors she could call in, of embarrassing information she possessed. Within a week, the other candidate had withdrawn. Liliana was announced as guest of honor instead. It had cost her $75,000 in strategic bribes, but it was worth it. Mother, do I really have to sit through this tedious gala? Daphne's voice carried from inside, pitched with the particular whine of someone who'd never been told no. Darling, image is everything. The Unity Foundation board is photographing tonight's event for their annual campaign. We need to be seen supporting their work, but it's all fake anyway. Daphne didn't look up from her phone. You told me yourself the whole program is just for tax purposes. Liliana smiled. At least her daughter was learning. It's not fake, darling. It's strategic. This was how Liliana had raised her daughter, teaching her that cruelty wasn't wrong. It was power. That treating service workers like furniture wasn't rude. It was appropriate. The parade of destroyed lives in Daphne's wake proved the lessons had taken. Your dress is being steamed, Liliana said. The Valentino, $10,000, so try not to spill anything on it. 3 hours later, they sat in their limousine heading toward the Grandview Plaza Hotel. Remember, Liliana said, touching up her lipstick. Smile for the cameras, look engaged during the speeches. This is all about image. How we look matters more than what we do. Liliana stepped out of the limousine, waved to the cameras, and walked into her gala like the queen she believed herself to be. What she didn't know was that someone else was watching. Someone who'd spent 3 years gathering evidence of every bribe, every embezzled dollar, every destroyed life. Someone who was waiting for exactly the right moment to reveal the truth. The fall, when it came, would be spectacular. Cassandra moved through the crowd like a ghost. Her silver tray balanced perfectly as she navigated between tables. Refill the champagne flute. Clear the appetizer plate. Smile politely. Stay invisible. Her feet ached in the black flats she'd worn for 12 hours straight. Her shoulders burned from carrying heavy trays, but nobody looked. She was part of the scenery, as decorative and forgettable as the orchid centerpieces. Excuse me, miss? A warm voice broke through her exhausted focus. An elderly black couple at table 17 smiled up at her genuine smiles, the kind that reached their eyes. We just wanted to say thank you. You've been working so hard all evening. The woman squeezed her hand briefly. I hope they're treating you well. You deserve kindness. Something in Cassandra's chest cracked open. Just slightly. When was the last time someone at an event like this had actually seen her? Thank you, she whispered. That means more than you know. At the front of the ballroom, Liliana Correa took the stage to thunderous applause. She looked radiant under the spotlight, her smile perfectly calibrated for the cameras. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Her voice was warm, practiced, designed to convey sincerity. Tonight, we gather not as strangers, but as a community united by a common purpose. The dignity and development of every human being, regardless of race, class, or circumstance. Cassandra found herself near the Correa family's VIP table, clearing empty glasses while trying to remain unobtrusive. She'd learned to tune out speeches like this, the soaring rhetoric, the empty promises, the self-congratulation disguised as humanitarianism. At the table, Daphne slouched in her chair, phone in hand, thumbs flying across the screen with bored contempt. She hadn't looked up once during her mother's speech. Cassandra reached carefully for an empty champagne flute near Daphne's elbow. Her hip brushed against the back of Daphne's chair, the contact barely noticeable. Daphne's head snapped up, her face transforming from bored indifference to sharp irritation. Watch it. Her voice was loud enough to cut through nearby conversations. Do you even know how much this dress costs? Cassandra's stomach dropped. I'm so sorry, ma'am. It won't happen again. She started to step back, but something in Daphne's eyes stopped her, a calculating gleam, like a cat that had just spotted a mouse. The girl looked around, then at the nearby guests who'd turned to watch. An audience. Daphne had an audience. You know what? Daphne stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the marble floor. The sound was harsh enough that conversations within a 20-foot radius died away. I don't think you're sorry enough. Time seemed to slow. Cassandra watched Daphne's hand reach for her wine glass, still half full of deep red Cabernet. She watched the girl's lips curve into a smile that had nothing to do with humor and everything to do with cruelty. She watched the glass rise, suspended in the air above her head. People like you should be grateful. We even let you serve us. The wine fell like a judgment. It hit her face, first cold liquid shocking against her skin, then her hair, soaking through the careful braids, then her uniform, the crisp white collar turning crimson as wine cascaded down her chest and back. She could taste it in her mouth, sharp and bitter. Could feel it dripping from her chin, running down her neck. The ballroom went silent. 500 people, frozen in collective shock. Phones appeared from every direction, recording the moment, capturing her humiliation in high definition. Cassandra stood perfectly still. Her brain couldn't process what had just happened. The wine kept dripping, and the silence kept stretching, and the cameras kept recording. Then, impossibly, laughter. Liliana Correa had stopped mid-speech, her attention drawn by the commotion. She stood on the stage, taking in the scene, her daughter, the empty wine glass, the wine-soaked waitress. And instead of horror, instead of apology, she laughed. "Oh, Daphne!" Liliana's voice carried across the silent ballroom, delighted and proud. "You're absolutely terrible." She pulled out her phone, aiming it at Cassandra, filming the aftermath. "But darling, you've made your point beautifully. This is what real class distinction looks like." The ballroom remained frozen. Some guests looked horrified, others uncomfortable. A few nodded along, as if this was somehow acceptable. Nobody intervened, nobody spoke up, nobody moved to help. Cassandra felt something break inside her chest. Not her dignity, she'd fought too hard to maintain that. But some last shred of hope that the world could be fair. She bent down slowly, reaching for napkins, preparing to clean up the mess, to apologize, to take responsibility for the crime of existing in Daphne Correa's space. And then, the mahogany double doors at the ballroom entrance swung open. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. Every head turned. Even Liliana's laughter died in her throat. A man stood in the doorway. Tall. Perfectly still. His presence filling the space in a way that had nothing to do with physical size and everything to do with power. Jinwoo Park had arrived, and everything was about to change. Jinwoo Park stood in the entrance like a storm made flesh. He was somewhere in his late 30s, Korean, with sharp features that suggested both intelligence and danger. His suit was impeccably tailored black Tom Ford. Fit so perfectly, it could only be custom made. But it was his eyes that commanded attention, dark, intense, and completely unreadable. The room's reaction was immediate and visceral. Recognition rippled through the crowd like electricity. Whispers started at the tables nearest the entrance and spread outward. "That's Jinwoo Park. The businessman? The one with the shipping empire? I heard he has connections to..." The whisper died unfinished, but the implication hung in the air. Underworld connections. Criminal ties. He donated $2 million to the foundation. Why is he arriving so late? Fear and respect warred in equal measure across the faces of the city's elite. Jinwoo Park was someone you wanted on your side and never wanted as an enemy. His eyes swept the ballroom with calculated precision. The frozen guests. The phones still recording. Liliana Correa on stage, her phone still aimed at something near table 7. And then his gaze stopped. Cassandra. She stood there, wine-soaked and humiliated, bent over as if preparing to clean up the very wine that had been poured on her head. Her hands trembled as they reached for napkins. Jinwoo's eyes moved to Daphne Correa, who still held the empty wine glass, her expression caught between smug satisfaction and dawning uncertainty. Then to Liliana on the stage. He walked forward, not quickly, not slowly, with the unhurried confidence of someone who'd never doubted their right to occupy any space they chose. His footsteps echoed on the marble floor, the only sound in a ballroom holding 500 people who'd forgotten how to breathe. He reached Cassandra in 12 steps. She hadn't moved, hadn't looked up, was still bent over those napkins. Miss Korea. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. Quiet, controlled, deadly. How fitting. He didn't look at Liliana as he spoke. His attention was entirely on Cassandra. He shrugged out of his suit jacket with fluid grace and draped it over her shoulders, covering the wine-stained uniform. The jacket was warm from his body heat. You don't need to clean anything. His voice was gentle when he spoke to her, so different from the cold authority he'd used saying Liliana's name. Please, step back. Cassandra finally looked up. Her eyes met his dark brown meeting darker brown, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding. He turned then, placing himself between Cassandra and the Koreas. A physical barrier. A statement of protection. I arrived late, he said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the ballroom. But clearly right on time to witness the true face of your humanitarian work. Liliana had descended from the stage, her practiced composure beginning to crack. Mr. Park, this was just a moment of youthful silence. The word dropped like a hammer. Liliana's mouth closed mid-sentence. Nobody spoke to her like that, nobody dared. Jinwoo pulled a tablet from his inner jacket pocket. I've spent the last 3 years investigating the Correa family and the Unity Foundation. He swiped through the tablet screen. Not because I enjoy investigating criminals, though they are criminals, but because I had a personal interest in seeing justice served. He tapped again, and somehow the images on his tablet began appearing on the ballroom's presentation screens. Financial documents, email correspondence, bank statements. These are records of embezzled charity funds. Another swipe. 73 separate transfers, totaling $47 million, moved from Unity Foundation accounts to offshore holdings controlled by Liliana Correa and her associates. Gasps erupted throughout the ballroom. Phones began buzzing, not to record now, but receiving notifications. Jinwoo was forwarding everything in real time. To the media. To authorities. This correspondence proves that Miss Korea bribed 6 Unity Foundation board members to secure her position as tonight's guest of honor. More documents appeared on screen. The woman originally selected had actually worked in community development. She was replaced by someone whose only qualification is being wealthy and white. Liliana's face had drained of all color. It's evidence. Jinwoo's voice remained calm. Authenticated. Time-stamped. Already in the hands of federal prosecutors. He swiped again. Here are testimonies from 47 former employees and contractors. Stories of abuse, discrimination, wage theft, and retaliation. All documented, all verifiable. Security guards were moving toward him now, but they stopped when several well-dressed guests stood up from various tables around the room. They weren't aggressive, but something in their bearing suggested they were more than ordinary party guests. Jinwoo's people. He'd had them in the room all along. The Unity Foundation's Human Development Program is a money laundering operation. The Racism Eradication Program. He paused, his eyes finding Cassandra, is a publicity stunt created by a woman who just filmed her daughter committing a hate crime for her entertainment. Daphne made a small sound. Something between a gasp and a whimper. Mom. What's happening? What's happening? Jinwoo said, his voice taking on an edge that suggested barely controlled rage. Is justice, finally. He turned, addressing the entire ballroom. This woman you just watched being humiliated. Her name is Cassandra King. She works 3 jobs. She hasn't had a day off in 2 years. Do you know why? The silence was absolute. Because she's raising her 12-year-old brother who has leukemia. Every dollar she earns goes to his treatment. Treatment that insurance won't cover. Treatment that costs exactly the amount she would have earned tonight. His voice dropped to something dangerous. While Liliana Correa steals from the charity funds meant to help families exactly like hers. Cassandra's knees buckled slightly. He knew. Somehow, this stranger knew her story. Knew Marcus. Knew everything. Jinwoo turned back to her. Do you need medical attention? She shook her head, unable to form words. Then let me take you somewhere safe. This is going to get much worse for them before it gets better. He offered his arm. Cassandra stared at it, this lifeline, this protection, this impossible intervention. After what felt like an eternity but was only seconds, she took his arm. They walked toward the exit together. The crowd parted before them like water. Behind them, chaos erupted, shouting, accusations, security trying to contain the situation, while Jinwoo's people blocked their access. As they reached the doors, Cassandra looked back once. Liliana stood frozen on the marble floor, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Daphne was crying, her $10,000 dress suddenly seeming like a costume rather than armor. And Cassandra King, invisible for so long, walked out of that ballroom seen, protected, and understood by a man whose name people whispered with equal parts fear and respect. Everything had changed in the span of 10 minutes. The night was just beginning. The Mercedes S-Class sliced through the night, its interior a bubble of leather and silence. Cassandra sat in the back seat, Jinwoo's jacket still draped over her shoulders, warm and smelling faintly of expensive cologne and sandalwood. She couldn't stop shaking. The wine had started to dry on her skin, sticky and uncomfortable, pulling at her hair, stiffening the fabric of her uniform. Jinwoo sat beside her. Not too close, giving her space but present. In the front seat, a phone rang. Then Cassandra's phone began to vibrate so violently it nearly slipped from her grip. She looked at the screen. 17 missed calls. 43 text messages. The numbers kept climbing, notifications cascading down faster than she could process. Don't look at it, Jinwoo said quietly. Not yet. Give yourself time to breathe. But she couldn't stop. Her fingers opened Twitter. The first thing she saw was a video. Her video. Someone had already cut together footage from multiple angles. Daphne raising the wine glass in slow motion, the liquid catching the chandelier light as it fell, Cassandra's face as the wine hit. The caption read, "Spoiled rich girl pours wine on black waitress at charity gala, while her mom films it." Number justice for Cassandra. 10 million views. In 2 hours. Her stomach turned over. But then she saw the second wave of videos, Jinwoo entering the ballroom, his voice cutting through the silence. The evidence appearing on screens. Liliana's face draining of color. Those videos were trending just as hard. Number, Korea's exposed. Number, Karma is real. It's everywhere, she whispered. Everyone's seen it. Yes. Jinwoo's voice was matter of fact. By morning, it'll be international news. That's good. Good? How is this good? Everyone's watching me get humiliated. Everyone's watching you survive it. And everyone's watching them get exposed. He leaned forward slightly. Visibility is protection, Miss King. They can't make you disappear now. You matter. The words hit her harder than she expected. You matter. Where do you need to go? He asked. Street Catherine's. The hospital. I need to. Marcus will be worried if he sees. She couldn't finish the sentence. Of course. Jinwoo tapped the driver's shoulder once. The car changed directions smoothly. They pulled up to Street Catherine's emergency entrance 15 minutes later. Cassandra fumbled with the door handle. But Jinwoo's hand on her arm stopped her gently. The jacket, he said. She looked down, realized she was still wearing it. She started to shrug it off, but he shook his head. Keep it. You'll need something clean to wear. He paused. I'll check on you tomorrow. Make sure you and your brother are all right. Why are you helping me? The question burst out. You don't know me. What do you want? His eyes met hers in the dim interior of the car, and she saw something there that looked almost like grief. Because someone should have a long time ago. Before she could respond, he was out of the car, opening her door, offering his hand. She took it, his grip warm and steady, and then she was standing on the sidewalk, watching his car pull away into the night. Marcus was awake when she pushed open the door to his room. He was sitting up in bed, tablet in hand, his eyes wide. The moment he saw her, he scrambled to pause the video he'd been watching. Cassie. He set the tablet aside quickly. Are you okay? I saw everyone's talking about. I know. She crossed to his bed, sank into the chair beside it, and that's when the dam broke. All the emotion she'd been holding back came pouring out in ugly, gasping sobs. Cassie, don't cry. Marcus's thin arms wrapped around her shoulders. That lady was horrible. And her daughter, she's a monster. I was just trying to do my job, Cassandra choked out. I just needed the money for your treatment. I know, Cassie. Marcus held her tighter. But that man who helped you, the Korean guy? Cassie, he was incredible. Did you see what he did? He destroyed them. He had all this evidence and he just boom exposed everything. She pulled back, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of Jinwoo's jacket. You watched the videos? Everyone watched the videos. The nurses, the other kids, even Dr. Schuyler came in to check on me because she saw it on the news. Marcus's eyes were bright. Cassie, you're famous. Everyone's on your side. I'm not a hero. I just stood there. You survived it. That man said you refused to break. And you didn't. Marcus squeezed her hand. That man who helped you, he seems really cool. Cassandra thought of Jinwoo's quiet authority in the ballroom, the way he'd placed himself between her and the Koreas like a shield, the warmth of his jacket still wrapped around her shoulders. Yeah, she said softly. He does. A knock on the door made them both jump. A nurse entered carrying an enormous bouquet of white lilies and blue hydrangeas. These just arrived for Marcus King, the nurse said, setting the flowers on the windowsill. Cassandra opened the card with trembling fingers. The message was brief, written in precise handwriting. Stay strong. J.W. She stared at those two letters, J.W., and felt something shift in her chest. Her phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. Miss King, this is Jinwoo Park. Please don't speak to media yet. We need to coordinate strategy. Also, your rent is paid for the next 6 months. Focus on your brother. Cassandra read the message 3 times. Her rent. 6 months. That was $5,700. She should feel grateful. She did feel grateful. But she also felt a loss of control, a shift in the precarious independence she'd fought so hard to maintain. What is it? Marcus asked. He paid our rent for 6 months. Whoa. Marcus's eyes went wide. Cassie, that's amazing. Was it? She didn't know. She typed and deleted 3 different responses before finally settling on something neutral. Thank you. I don't know what to say. His response came immediately. Say yes to meeting me tomorrow. We need to talk strategy. The Koreas will retaliate. She looked at Marcus, at the IV running into his arm, at the flowers from a man she barely knew. Her phone was still exploding with notifications, her humiliation gone viral, her face plastered across social media, her life irrevocably changed. Okay, she typed back. Tomorrow. She tucked her phone away and tried to focus on Marcus, who was already drifting off to sleep. But her mind kept circling back to the same questions. Who was Jinwoo Park, really? Why had he chosen to help her? And what would she owe him when this was all over? Outside Marcus's window, the city glittered like scattered jewels, indifferent to the drama playing out in hospital rooms and mansions. Somewhere out there, the Koreas were planning their counterattack. And somewhere out there, a man with a dangerous past and kind eyes was probably still awake, making sure she stayed safe. Cassandra pulled Jinwoo's jacket tighter around her shoulders and tried to stop shaking. The office building downtown looked like every other glass and steel tower in the financial district: anonymous, expensive, intimidating. Cassandra stood on the sidewalk 3 days after the gala, staring up at the 40-story monument to wealth and wondering what the hell she was doing here. Jinwoo's text had been simple. Come to my office. 2 p.m. We need to talk. He'd included the address and floor number. No questions. Just an assumption that she'd show up. And here she was, wearing the only professional outfit she owned that wasn't a server's uniform, a black skirt and white blouse from Goodwill. Her life had exploded in 72 hours. The catering company had fired her. The Grandview Hotel had eliminated her position. Only Joe's Diner had kept her on. But even there, customers recognized her, wanted photos, treated her like a curiosity. Her rent was paid by a man she barely knew. Her phone exploded with interview requests. The video had 40 million views now. She'd become a symbol for something larger than herself. The elevator ride to the 38th floor felt like ascending into another world. The receptionist smiled warmly. Miss King, Mr. Park is expecting you. She was led through corridors that felt more like an art gallery, past conference rooms where serious business happened, until they reached a corner office with solid wood doors. Jinwoo stood as she entered, moving around his desk with fluid grace. He wore a charcoal suit today, perfectly tailored, but his eyes were the same intense, calculating but with something softer underneath. Thank you for coming, he said, gesturing to a seating area by the window's leather chairs, coffee already waiting. Cassandra remained standing, her purse clutched in front of her like a shield. I didn't ask you to pay my rent. I know, but I did it anyway. Why? What do you want from me? To help you. He said it so simply, as if it were obvious. The Koreas will retaliate, Miss King, viciously. You need protection. I've been taking care of myself and Marcus for 5 years. I don't need some... She stopped herself, but they both knew what she'd been about to say. Some rich man. Some savior. You're not a damsel in distress, Jinwoo said. You're a woman who's been fighting alone for too long. Let someone help. Help comes with strings. It always does. Not this time. He sat down, gestured for her to join him. After a long moment, she did, perching on the edge of the leather. The investigations have started. Federal prosecutors are looking at the Unity Foundation's finances. What I exposed at the gala was just the beginning. There's years of corruption to uncover. And what does that have to do with me? Everything. You're the face of this now. Your testimony will be crucial. He leaned forward. I've connected you with lawyers, top ones, pro bono. They'll help you navigate the legal process, protect you from the Koreas' counterattacks. Counterattacks. She repeated the word flatly. You make it sound like a war. It is a war, and you're on the front lines whether you chose to be or not. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, turned it face down. Liliana Correa has hired the best defense team money can buy. They're already building a narrative that you're an opportunist, that this is all a publicity stunt. Cassandra's hands clenched. That's insane. That's strategy. And it'll work if we don't get ahead of it. Jinwoo moved to his desk, returned with a folder thick with documents. This is everything we have on the Koreas. Financial records, testimony from other victims, correspondence proving bribes. But we need your testimony to tie it together. She took the folder with numb hands, flipped it open. Bank statements, emails, testimonies from people whose stories echoed her own. Decades of systematic abuse. All documented. Why are you really doing this? She looked up. What do you get out of it? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Jinwoo was silent for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression, a crack in that controlled facade. I grew up in poverty in Seoul, he said finally, his voice quieter now. My mother worked as a maid for wealthy families. She cleaned their houses, raised their children, made their lives comfortable. And they treated her like furniture. Less than furniture, you take care of furniture. He moved to the window, staring out. When I was 8, she worked for a family in Gangnam, very wealthy, very connected. The wife accused my mother of stealing jewelry she'd actually lost gambling. My mother was fired, blacklisted, couldn't find work. We nearly starved that winter. Cassandra felt something loosen in her chest. I built my empire to make sure I'd never be powerless again. Jinwoo's reflection in the glass was ghostly. I've done things I'm not proud of, hurt people who probably deserved it and some who might not have. I operate in spaces between legal and illegal, Miss King. I'm not a good man. He turned to face her. But when I saw you standing there, covered in wine, still refusing to break, I saw my mother, and I decided that this time, someone would fight back. The silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken understanding. I'm not looking for redemption, Jinwoo continued. I don't think what I'm doing for you erases what I've done to others. But maybe it's a start. Cassandra set the folder aside. I need to think about this. About testifying. About all of it. Take the time you need. But Miss King, Cassandra, he used her first name for the first time. The Koreas won't give you time. They're already moving. Accept the protection. Accept the lawyers. You don't have to do this alone anymore. She wanted to argue, to maintain her independence. But the folder in front of her told a different story, one of people who'd tried to fight alone and been destroyed. Okay, she said finally. But I have conditions. I'm not a charity case. I'll pay you back for the rent, even if it takes years. And I make my own decisions about testimony, about media, about everything. You can advise, but you don't control me. Something that might have been respect flickered across Jinwoo's face. Agreed. And you stay away from Marcus, unless I say otherwise. He's 12 and he already thinks you're some kind of superhero. I won't have him getting attached if you're just going to disappear when this is over. I won't disappear. He said it with such certainty that she almost believed him. Over the following weeks, a pattern emerged. Cassandra would meet Jinwoo at his office, go over legal documents with the lawyers he'd hired, prepare her testimony. She'd return home to find her mailbox empty of bills he'd paid those too, despite her protests. When Marcus needed a new round of treatment, the hospital informed her the charges had been handled. She should have been angry. Part of her was. But mostly she was exhausted. And accepting help felt like surfacing after drowning for years. Jinwoo started visiting Marcus at the hospital. He'd show up in the evenings after Cassandra's shift, always bringing something: basketball cards one day, a handheld gaming console another, books about athletes who'd overcome adversity. He never stayed long, never overstayed his welcome, but Marcus lit up every time he appeared. He's like a superhero, Cassie, Marcus said one night after Jinwoo left. Did you see the vintage Michael Jordan card he brought me? He shouldn't be spending that much on you. Why not? He's rich. And he likes us. Marcus studied her face. You like him too. I can tell. It's complicated, baby. Grown-ups always say that when they're scared of something good. Meanwhile, the Korea struck back with precision. It started with a morning news segment, a blonde anchor introducing new witnesses who'd come forward with troubling allegations. The first witness claimed Cassandra had been intoxicated, stumbling around. The second, identifying himself as a fellow server, claimed she'd been aggressive and confrontational toward guests all evening, that she'd bumped into Daphne pretty hard, and Daphne just panicked. By noon, photos had surfaced Cassandra at the gala, her server's apron pocket visibly bulging. The caption, "Sticky fingers?" Source claims items went missing from coat check. Enhanced photos show suspicious bulges. The implication was clear. She'd been stealing. Jinwoo's lawyers called within the hour. The photos are doctored. We're running forensic analysis. But Miss King, prepare for this to get worse. Worse came that evening. Daphne Korea sat down for an exclusive interview, her 16-year-old face arranged in wounded innocence. She wore minimal makeup, her hair in a simple ponytail, dressed like a scared teenager. I was so scared, Daphne said, her voice breaking on cue. She kept getting closer and closer, and she seemed so angry. When she bumped into me really hard, I panicked. The wineglass was in my hand, and She dissolved into tears. Liliana took over seamlessly. My daughter has been receiving death threats, people calling her racist. And why? Because she had a normal human reaction to feeling threatened? We've dedicated our lives to helping people like Cassandra King. This is how we're repaid? Cassandra watched on her phone, sitting beside Marcus's hospital bed, and felt something cold settle in her chest. This was how they would win. Not through truth, but through a better story. Turn it off, Cassie. Marcus's weak voice pulled her from the screen. You know it's not true. Everyone who matters knows it's not true. But that was the problem. By the next morning, the narrative had shifted enough that even supportive outlets were hedging. Questions arise. Both sides deserve to be heard. The truth might be more complicated. Then they came for her parents. An article appeared on a gossip site. Cassandra King's tragic backstory or convenient narrative. It detailed her parents' accident, then insinuated, sources close to the investigation say alcohol may have been a factor. Is there a family pattern? Her father hadn't been drinking. The police report was clear. But the article made it sound sordid, questionable. They came for Marcus next. Someone leaked his medical records to the tabloids. Private information splashed across headlines. Is sick brother real or sympathy prop? Marcus saw the article before Cassandra could hide it. When she arrived for her evening visit, she found him crying, 12 years old and hooked to machines, trying to process strangers calling him a prop. Am I making things worse for you? He asked. Would it be better if I wasn't? Don't you dare finish that sentence. Cassandra grabbed his hands. Don't you dare. They can come after me all they want. But you, Marcus, you are the only thing in this world that matters. They're evil, baby. They're just evil. Jin Woo appeared in the doorway 20 minutes later, his face carved from stone, holding a tablet showing real-time monitoring of news coverage. We need to talk, now. They moved to a family consultation room while Jin Woo's security team took positions outside. He set the tablet on the table between them. The medical records leak is a federal crime, Jin Woo said. HIPAA violation. My people are tracing it back to its source. Let me guess. The Curious. One of their lawyers, most likely. But proving it will take time we don't have. He swiped through screens. The fabricated witnesses are paid actors. The photos are doctored forensics prove the metadata's been altered. But Cassandra, the truth doesn't matter if they destroy your credibility first. So what do we do? His eyes met hers, and she saw something dangerous there. Let me handle this. I have methods that don't involve courts or lawyers. These people have hurt you. Hurt Marcus. Let me make them stop. The offer hung between them, tempting as poison. She understood what he was suggesting. Jinwoo Park didn't build his empire by playing fair. No. Cassandra's voice was firm. We do this legally. I won't let you become a monster because of me. I'm already a monster. At least let me be a useful one. Jinwoo. She reached across the table, her hand covering his. I know you want to protect me. But if you do something illegal, something violent, they win anyway. We have to be better than them. We have to win the right way. He was silent for a long moment, his jaw working like he was physically restraining himself. Finally, he nodded. Then we increase security. Significantly. I'm assigning a full team to you and Marcus. 24-hour protection. Is that really necessary? Yes. He turned the tablet to show her an intercepted message. This came through an encrypted server 2 hours ago. Someone put a contract on you. $50,000. The words took a moment to penetrate. A contract. On her. The Curious. Her voice sounded distant. Almost certainly. The contractors are foreign Serbian, probably. Former military. Very good at what they do. Jinwoo's hand tightened on hers. You can't go home. You can't go anywhere public. I have a safe house prepared. I can't leave Marcus. You'll be able to video call as often as you want. But Cassandra, if they get to you, who takes care of him? You have to stay alive. The logic was inescapable. She looked at Marcus's room down the hall, at her brother fighting leukemia, while strangers called him a prop. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The safe house was a penthouse apartment with security that would have impressed a head of state. Luxurious and isolating in equal measure, a gilded cage for her own protection. She video called Marcus 4 times a day, watching his face on a screen while her heart ached to be beside his hospital bed. Cassandra has lost almost everything: her jobs, her safety, her independence. But she hasn't lost you. If her fight is hitting you right now, let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're not leaving her side. 5 days into hiding, Dr. Skylar called. Marcus has developed an infection. His white blood cell count is critically low. The stress is compromising his immune system. He needs the next phase of treatment immediately. I'm coming. Cassandra was already grabbing her jacket. Wait, Dr. Skylar's voice stopped her. There's something else. His insurance has denied coverage for the next treatment phase. Without it, how much? $85,000. If we can't start treatment within 48 hours, the rest dissolved into white noise. 85,000. She could work every hour of every day for the next year and never come close. I'm coming to the hospital, she said. I don't care about safety. That's my brother. Jinwoo was already at her door. His security team must have alerted him. I'll take you. My people will lock down the hospital. They drove through the city in a convoy, 2 SUVs full of armed guards surrounding Jinwoo's sedan. The hospital had been alerted. Security personnel positioned themselves at entrances and exits. Marcus looked impossibly small in his hospital bed, hooked to machines that beeped steady warnings. His fever spiked at 104. He barely registered Cassandra's presence. Dr. Skylar pulled them into the hallway. We've started antibiotics, but his immune system is struggling. The stress of everything, the media attention, the leaked records, being separated from you, it's taken a severe toll. He needs the next phase of treatment to have any chance. How much time do we have? 48 hours? Maybe less. Cassandra turned away, her hand pressed against the wall. $85,000. 48 hours. Her brother dying because an insurance company decided his life wasn't worth their money. She didn't hear Jinwoo speak to Dr. Skylar until his words penetrated her fog. Do it. Start the treatment. Send billing to me. No, Cassandra spun around. No, I can't let you. You can't stop me. Jinwoo's expression was implacable. It's already done. Dr. Okonkwo, you have authorization to begin immediately. Whatever he needs, no limits. The doctor nodded and disappeared back into Marcus's room. Cassandra felt something crack inside her chest. That's $85,000. I can never pay you back. Never. I'm buying your brother's life, Jinwoo interrupted, his voice gentler now. And there's no debt. No obligation. No strings. Just let him live, Cassandra. Please. She wanted to argue. But Marcus was dying. And Jinwoo was offering a lifeline. And pride was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. I'll pay you back, she whispered. Somehow. Even if it takes the rest of my life. You don't owe me anything. He reached out, his hand hovering near her shoulder. Can I? She collapsed into him before he could finish the question. Jinwoo's arms wrapped around her, solid and steady. And she let herself break in the hallway while her brother fought for his life, and strangers with guns guarded the doors. Everything was crashing down simultaneously. The Correas' lies spreading faster than she could combat them. Assassins hunting her. Her brother's body betraying him. Her independence dissolved into dependence on a man who terrified and comforted her in equal measure. And through it all, Jinwoo Park held her together, bearing burdens she couldn't carry, and asking nothing in return except the chance to keep her alive. Marcus's treatment began at 2 a.m. Cassandra stayed in his room, watching the IV drip life-saving medicine into his fragile veins. Jinwoo's security team maintained positions outside 2 at the door, more scattered throughout the hospital. The fever broke on the second day. His white blood cell count started climbing on the third. Doctor. Skylar's cautious optimism grew into something more concrete. He's responding. The treatment is working. He's fighting back. On the 4th day, an investigative journalist named Aliana Reagan contacted Jinwoo's office requesting a meeting. She worked for a legitimate news organization, and she claimed to have information about the Koreas' smear campaign. They met in a secure conference room at the hospital. Aliana Reagan was mid-30s, sharp-eyed, with the exhausted determination of someone chasing a story for too long without sleep. She spread documents across the table. The witnesses were paid actors, she said without preamble. Professional crisis actors hired through a shell company, traced back to the Koreas' legal team. Here are the contracts, the payment records, everything. Cassandra felt something loosen in her chest. The photos of you supposedly stealing were doctored. I have the original metadata proving the images were altered. The medical records leak was orchestrated by Jonathan Hastings, one of Liliana Correa's attorneys. He paid a hospital administrator $50,000. The administrator is cooperating with authorities now. Hastings is facing disbarment and federal charges. Jinwoo leaned forward. This is excellent. We can go public immediately. There's more. Aliana's expression shifted, becoming uncomfortable. And you're not going to like it. She turned to Jinwoo, pulling out a second folder. I've been investigating you too, Mr. Park. My editor insisted if we're exposing the Koreas, we need to be transparent about who's protecting Miss King and what his background really is. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Jinwoo's face remained perfectly neutral. I support your cause. Aliana continued carefully. What the Koreas did was unconscionable. But people deserve to know who's protecting Cassandra King. Your business empire, Mr. Park, it's not all legitimate, is it? No, Jinwoo said simply. It's not. Aliana laid out documents methodically. Money laundering schemes. Protection rackets operating in the city's Korean business district. Connections to organized crime networks. And most damning case files on 2 unsolved murders, with circumstantial evidence pointing toward Jinwoo's organization. I can't prove you ordered these deaths, Aliana said. Neither can the police, or you'd be in prison. But the pattern is there. People who opposed you, who threatened your business interests, they disappeared. Cassandra felt ice spreading through her veins. She'd known Jinwoo had a dangerous past. But seeing it documented, connected to actual bodies, that was different. I'm running this story tomorrow, Aliana said. Both stories, the Koreas' corruption and your background. The public deserves the full truth. I understand. Jinwoo's voice remained steady. Print the truth. I knew it would come out eventually. After Aliana left, they sat in silence. The conference room felt too small suddenly. I need to see the article, Cassandra said finally. Before it runs. Aliana had left a preview copy. Cassandra read it on Jinwoo's tablet. Jinwoo Park's empire built on blood and intimidation. Protection money extracted from small business owners. Legitimate businesses used to launder money from illegal operations. Associates who disappeared after crossing him. The section about the unsolved murders was particularly brutal. A business rival found dead in the harbor. Execution style. A whistleblower who'd threatened to expose Jinwoo's money laundering disappeared entirely, his car found abandoned, his family never hearing from him again. Did you kill them? Cassandra asked, not looking up. Those 2 men. Did you order their deaths? She heard Jinwoo take a breath. I don't know. You don't know? I've given orders, he said slowly. Orders to handle problems, to eliminate threats, to make situations go away. Some of those people disappeared, whether they're dead or just Gone. I chose not to ask. You chose not to ask. I built my empire in blood and fear, Cassandra. I'm not a good man. I've never pretended to be. He moved to the window. People suffered because of me. People died, probably, even if I don't have confirmation. I operated outside the law because the law didn't protect people like my mother. Like me. Like you. Then why did you help me? Her voice cracked. He turned to face her. Because maybe protecting you could be the first good thing I've ever done. Maybe loving you could redeem something I thought was irredeemable. Cassandra felt tears streaming down her face. I can't do this. Marcus needs stability. Goodness. I can't bring this darkness into our lives. I understand. You need to stop helping us. Stop paying for things. Just let us go. The words seemed to physically hurt him. If that's what you want, it has to be. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You're right to protect Marcus. He moved toward the door. Paused. My security team will stay until the Korea threats are neutralized. After that, I'll stay away. You won't see me again unless you want to. Jin Woo. I love you, he said, not looking back. I know that doesn't change anything. But I wanted you to know. Then he was gone, and Cassandra was alone with the tablet still showing evidence of violence, her heart torn between the man who'd saved her and the monster he admitted to being. The article ran the next morning. Korea Corruption Exposed ran alongside the man behind the rescue, Jin Woo Park's criminal empire. Social media exploded. The vindication Cassandra had craved was finally hers, proof that the witnesses were paid. The photos doctored, the medical leak illegal. Number justice for Cassandra surged with new energy. But equally vocal was the other narrative. Cassandra King aligned with criminal. From victim to mob associate, the Koreas' PR team seized on it. Liliana gave an interview. She's not a victim. She's allied herself with a dangerous criminal. This entire situation has been orchestrated from the beginning. Cassandra gave a carefully calibrated interview. Jinwoo Park helped me when I was vulnerable. I will always be grateful. But his help doesn't mean I condone any illegal activities. He did something good for me that doesn't erase anything else he may have done. We're not together. The words felt like betrayal even as she spoke them. Marcus woke fully 2 days after the article ran. His fever was gone, his infection responding to antibiotics, his white blood cell count climbing steadily. Dr. Schuyler declared him on the road to recovery. He was sitting up in bed when he asked the question Cassandra had been dreading. Cassie, why did you send him away? It's complicated, baby. He loves you. Even I can see that. And you love him. Marcus's 12-year-old eyes were too knowing. That's what the doctors said about me. When I got diagnosed, they said the cancer was aggressive, my chances weren't good. Some things were too broken to fix. But you never gave up. Why are you giving up on him? He might have killed people, Marcus. Maybe. But he definitely saved people. You. Me. Marcus's grip tightened. Nobody's perfect, Cassie. Not even you. Why are you giving up on him when he didn't give up on us? The question hung between them, unanswerable and accusatory. I don't know. She whispered finally. I don't know, baby. That night, alone, while Marcus slept and Jinwoo's security team maintained their vigil, Cassandra pulled out her phone and stared at the last text message he'd sent. I love you. I know that doesn't change anything. But I wanted you to know. She typed and deleted a dozen responses. Finally, she put the phone down without responding. Outside the window, the city lights sparkled like scattered stars. The Koreas were still out there, still dangerous. Assassins still hunted her. Marcus was healing but fragile. And somewhere in that glittering city, Jinwoo Park sat alone with his blood-stained empire and his genuine love, waiting for a woman who might never be brave enough to accept either. 1 week later, the federal investigation accelerated. A grand jury had been convened. Jin Woo's meticulous documentation, 3 years of financial forensics, witness testimony, recorded communications had given prosecutors everything they needed. Indictments were coming. Cassandra was scheduled to give her final testimony in 48 hours. At 2:37 a.m., the fire alarm at Street Catherine's shattered the quiet. Cassandra jerked upright in the chair beside Marcus's bed, her heart immediately racing. The hallway erupted in controlled chaos. Nurses moving quickly. Announcements over the intercom. Code red, 4th floor. All personnel initiate evacuation protocol. Cassandra's instincts screamed wrong. At 2:37 inches the morning. No smoke visible. No heat. We need to go, baby. She was already unhooking Marcus's monitor leads, careful not to dislodge his IV line. Come on, quick. Marcus swung his legs out of bed, unsteady but mobile. She grabbed his IV pole, positioning it so he could use it for support. They headed for the door. They made it 3 steps into the hallway before 2 men in hospital orderly uniforms appeared, moving against the flow of evacuating patients. Something in Cassandra's gut twisted. These men were strangers, too large, too muscular, moving with military precision. We'll help you evacuate, one of them said, his accent foreign Eastern European. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Get away from us. Cassandra pulled Marcus closer, backing toward the wall. The men dropped the pretense. One of them pulled a gun from beneath his scrubs, black, compact, fitted with a suppressor. Miss Korea sends her regards. His finger moved to the trigger. Cassandra moved on pure instinct, positioning herself between the gun and Marcus, her body becoming a shield. You want him, you go through me. The mercenary's expression didn't change. He raised the gun, aiming center mass. The door to the stairwell exploded open. Jinwoo's head of security, a Korean man named Min who moved like liquid violence, burst through with 3 others. They were armed, weapons drawn, suppressed. The hallway suddenly felt impossibly small. Down! Min's voice cut through the chaos. Cassandra grabbed Marcus, dragging him to the floor behind the nurse's station as gunfire erupted. Suppressed weapons made strange sounds, sharp hisses like angry snakes. Glass shattered. The exchange lasted maybe 5 seconds. When Cassandra looked up, one mercenary was on the ground, Min's knee on his back, hands being zip-tied. The other had fled. Then Jinwoo himself appeared, rushing down the hallway. He dropped to his knees beside them, his hands hovering over Cassandra's shoulders as if afraid to touch her. Are you hurt? Is Marcus? We're fine. Cassandra's voice sounded distant. How did you know? I never actually pulled my people back. Jinwoo finally touched her face. They've been watching from a distance. I couldn't leave you unprotected. Even after you told me to go. The hospital descended into controlled pandemonium. Police sirens wailed. Jinwoo's security team vanished like smoke before authorities could arrive. They left behind only the subdued mercenary and carefully positioned evidence. The mercenary's phone told its own story. A burner, untraceable, except for 1 number saved in contacts. When police traced it, they found it belonged to Jonathan Hastings, the same Correa family lawyer already facing charges. Direct connection established. But Jinwoo had been planning for this moment. While the Correas launched their assassination attempt, he'd prepared an information attack. Every piece of evidence he'd gathered over 3 years was released simultaneously to authorities and media. Financial forensics showing exactly how much they'd stolen. 47 separate testimonies. And most damning recorded phone calls of Liliana Correa, personally ordering the hit, her voice cold and imperious. I don't care how you do it, just make her disappear. Permanently. The brother, too, if necessary. Federal agents mobilized within hours. The machinery of justice suddenly moved with devastating speed. Cassandra sat in Marcus's hospital room as dawn broke and watched her phone fill with news alerts. Breaking: Liliana and Daphne Correa arrested on multiple charges including fraud, embezzlement, and attempted murder. She turned on the television. Live footage showed federal agents raiding the Korea mansion. Liliana being led out in handcuffs, her silver hair disheveled, her face contorted with rage as she screamed at cameras. "This is a witch hunt." Daphne followed minutes later, crying, calling for her mother, looking impossibly young in designer pajamas, 16 years old and facing adult charges. Jinwoo returned to the hospital room after the police investigation. He looked exhausted, his perfect composure finally cracking. Cassandra stood when he entered. They faced each other across Marcus's sleeping form. "You saved us," she finally managed. "Again, I couldn't let anything happen to you, either of you." His voice was rough. "I know you told me to stay away. But I couldn't leave you unprotected. I'm sorry." The words tumbled out. "For pushing you away. For being afraid. For making you think I didn't. You had every reason to be afraid." Jinwoo moved closer. "I am dangerous. I have done terrible things. Aliana Reagan's article, all of it was true, but you've also done something wonderful." Cassandra's fingers threaded through his. "You've protected us. Fought for justice. Exposed corruption. You've become the man you wanted to be. Because of you." His free hand cupped her face. "You make me want to be better. I love you, Jinwoo Park." The words were terrifying and liberating. "I'm terrified of it. Terrified of your past. Of what loving you might mean. But I love you. I love you, Cassandra King." He leaned his forehead against hers. "You make me believe redemption is possible." They kissed for the first time, not passionate but gentle, profound. A kiss that tasted like exhaustion and trauma and desperate relief. Two people finding each other in the aftermath of a battle. Neither thought they'd survive. "Ew, gross." Marcus's voice broke through the moment, weak but amused. But also, finally, they pulled apart, both laughing. Marcus grinned from his hospital bed, looking more like a normal 12-year-old than he had in weeks. "You two have been doing the dramatic longing thing forever," he continued. It was exhausting to watch. Cassandra moved to his bedside, Jinwoo following. "How are you feeling, baby? Better now that you two stopped being idiots?" Marcus reached for both their hands. "We're family now, right? All three of us?" Jinwoo looked at Cassandra, something vulnerable and hopeful in his eyes. She nodded. "Yeah," Jinwoo said to Marcus. "We're family." Outside the hospital window, dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. The news continued its coverage, federal agents, frozen assets, charges being filed, the Carice's empire crumbling in real time. Inside Marcus's room, three people who'd survived the unsurvivable held on to each other and watched the sunrise. The battle wasn't over. There would be trials, testimony, healing that would take years. But they'd made it through the darkest night. Together. 6 weeks later, Cassandra King stood in a federal courtroom and told her story to a jury of 12 strangers. The room was packed, media in the gallery, victims filling every available seat, the Carice's expensive legal team arranged behind their table. Liliana and Daphne Correa sat at the defense table, both dressed in conservative outfits designed to evoke sympathy. Liliana's silver hair pulled back severely, Daphne looking young and scared 16 and facing charges that could send her to prison for most of her adult life. Cassandra felt no satisfaction looking at them, just a hollow exhaustion. The prosecutor was a woman named Jennifer Okafor, mid-40s, with the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd seen enough corruption to be genuinely angry about it. She walked Cassandra through that night at the gala with careful precision. "Can you describe what happened when Daphne Correa approached your position?" Cassandra's voice was steady. "I was clearing glasses near the Correa family's VIP section. I accidentally brushed against the back of Daphne's chair, barely touched it. She turned around and said, 'Watch it. Do you even know how much this dress costs?' And then?" I apologized immediately, started to move away, but she stood up, grabbed her wine glass, and she said," Cassandra's voice cracked slightly. She said, "People like you should be grateful. We even let you serve us." Then she poured the wine on my head. The courtroom was silent. The videos had been played already, everyone had seen it. But hearing Cassandra describe it in her own voice made it human. And Miss Korea's mother, Liliana, what was her reaction? She laughed, pulled out her phone and started filming. She said, "Oh, Daphne, you're absolutely terrible. But darling, you've made your point beautifully. This is what real class distinction looks like." The defense tried to poke holes, tried to suggest Cassandra had been aggressive, that Daphne felt threatened. But the videos didn't lie, and Cassandra's testimony, clear and unwavering, matched every frame. Then came the parade of other victims. 47 people over 3 days, each one telling their story. Maids fired without cause. Contractors never paid. Employees forced to sign NDAs after harassment. 2 decades of destruction finally given voice. Financial experts testified about the embezzlement scheme, $47 million stolen, funneled through shell companies to offshore accounts. The money trail was incontrovertible. And then, most damning, the evidence of the assassination attempt. The captured mercenary testified about being hired to eliminate Cassandra and Marcus. The phone records connecting him to Jonathan Hastings. The recorded phone call of Liliana Correa ordering the hit. The defense tried to attack Jinwoo's past, suggesting the evidence was tainted. But the prosecution was ready, every piece legally obtained, properly documented, independently verified. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Cassandra sat in the gallery between Jinwoo and Marcus and watched the verdict being read. Liliana's face went white, then red, her mouth opening in protest. Daphne dissolved into tears, reaching for her mother's hand. Both of them handcuffed and facing consequences they'd thought would never touch them. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Liliana Correa, 25 years in federal prison, no parole eligibility for 15 years. Daphne Correa, juvenile facility until age 21, followed by 10 years in prison. Additional charges for the board members who'd enabled the corruption. The dissolution of the Unity Foundation, its remaining legitimate assets transferred to actual charitable organizations. As the sentences were read, Cassandra felt no joy. Just a quiet, exhausted relief. Justice wasn't celebration, it was simply the world being set right. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. Jinwoo's security team created a path. Cassandra paused at the microphones, gave a brief statement. This wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. For every person the Correas hurt, every life they destroyed, every voice they silenced, justice is never just for one person. It's for everyone who's ever been made to feel invisible. Then she was through the crowd, climbing into Jinwoo's car, Marcus already buckled in the back seat. They drove away from the courthouse, from the media circus, from the end of a chapter that had defined the past 6 months of their lives. Life had been slowly normalizing. Marcus was responding beautifully to treatment, his white blood cell count stable, his energy returning. Doctor, Skylar was using words like full remission with increasing confidence. Cassandra had quit 2 of her 3 jobs. Joe's diner kept her on part-time. She was enrolled in community college, taking prerequisites for a social work degree. She wanted to help people like her, people struggling at the margins, needing someone who understood what survival cost. Jinwoo was divesting from his illegal operations, going legitimate despite the complications. It wasn't easy, some former partners weren't happy, but he had leverage, knew things that made him dangerous to cross, and most importantly, he had Cassandra reminding him every day why becoming better mattered. "You make me want to build something real," he told her one night. "Something clean, a legacy that's not built on fear." 6 months after the trial, Marcus was declared in remission. The word came with caveats: continued treatment, ongoing monitoring, the knowledge that cancer could return. But for now, he was cancer-free. Fragile but whole. Alive. They celebrated in the new apartment Jinwoo had found spacious and safe. 3 bedrooms so Marcus could have his own space filled with basketball posters. A small gathering. Marcus, Jinwoo's most trusted people. A few friends from Cassandra's support group. No champagne. Instead, sparkling cider in plastic cups, pizza from Marcus's favorite place, a cake that said, "Congratulations, Marcus," in blue frosting. It was simple, imperfect, beautiful in its normalcy. Jinwoo pulled Cassandra aside while Marcus was occupied with a video game. They stood by the window overlooking the city, his arm around her waist. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for all of this. You don't need to thank me. He gestured to the room. This is everything I never knew I needed." They stood together, 2 broken people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances, and somehow built something that looked like happiness. Not perfect, not uncomplicated, but real and theirs and worth every battle they'd fought to protect it. The city sprawled below them, indifferent and beautiful. The Koreas sat in prison cells, their empire demolished. The Unity Foundation was being rebuilt under new leadership. Aliana Reagan had won a journalism award for her exposé, and in an apartment in a safe building, 3 people who'd survived the unsurvivable celebrated the simple, profound miracle of another day together. Marcus's laughter drifted across the room. Jinwoo squeezed Cassandra's hand. The city lights sparkled like promises. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was something better, messy, complicated, human, real, and for now, that was enough. 1 year after the wine incident, the invitation arrived in a cream-colored envelope with elegant calligraphy. "The Unity Foundation cordially invites you to be our guest of honor at our relaunch gala." Cassandra stared at it for a full minute before Marcus grabbed it from her fingers. "You have to go," he said. "Cassie, this is perfect. Full circle. I don't know if I can go back there." Just thinking about that ballroom made her skin crawl. She could still feel the wine dripping down her face. Jinwoo looked up from his laptop where he'd been reviewing contracts for his latest legitimate business venture, a community development project in the neighborhood where he'd first started building his empire, this time built on actual construction. "You don't have to. But if you do, you'd be walking in as the guest of honor, not the help. Do it, Cassie." Marcus's eyes were bright. "Show them you're not afraid. Show everyone that they didn't break you." She looked between them, her brother who'd survived the unsurvivable, her fiancé who'd transformed from monster to protector to partner. Both of them believing she was strong enough. "Okay," she said finally. "We'll go. All 3 of us." The night of the gala, Cassandra stood in front of their bedroom mirror in a gown she'd chosen herself, deep emerald silk that made her dark skin glow, cut elegantly but simply. Her natural hair was styled in an intricate updo, a crown of curls and braids that was uniquely, authentically hers. Diamond earrings caught the light. She looked beautiful, powerful, nothing like the exhausted waitress who'd served champagne a year ago. Jinwoo appeared behind her in the mirror, devastating in a charcoal suit. "You're breathtaking. I'm terrified. You're both." He kissed her shoulder gently. "And that's okay. Fear and courage aren't opposites. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway." Marcus bounded into the room in his own suit, the first formal event he'd been healthy enough to attend since getting sick. He was still thinner than he should be, still tired more easily, but he was here, alive, fighting. The remission held, fragile, but real. "Can we go already?" Marcus was practically vibrating with excitement. "I want to see their faces when you walk in like the queen you are." The Grandview Plaza Hotel ballroom looked different and exactly the same. The same crystal chandeliers, the same marble floors, the same windows overlooking the city. But the atmosphere was transformed where wealth had once been on obscene display. Now there were photographs covering the walls. Real people helped by the restructured foundation. Families given resources, communities supported. Actual humanitarian work documented with dignity. When Cassandra entered Jinwoo on one side, Marcus on the other, the entire ballroom rose in standing ovation. 500 people, but these were different 500. Fewer celebrities and socialites, more community organizers and activists, nonprofit directors, and people who actually did the work. They clapped not because she was famous, but because she'd survived and spoken up and refused to disappear. Cassandra felt tears threatening and blinked them back. She'd cried enough in this room. The new director of the Unity Foundation, a black woman named Dr. Patricia Morrison, who'd spent 30 years in actual community development, gave the opening remarks. "We gather tonight to acknowledge our past failures and commit to a better future. The previous leadership used this organization to enrich themselves while exploiting the vulnerable. That ends now." She gestured to Cassandra. "Miss King has shown us what real courage looks like. Standing up when powerful people tried to silence her. Speaking truth when lies were more convenient. Surviving when survival required more strength than most of us will ever need. We are honored to have you here tonight." More applause. Cassandra made her way to the podium on legs that felt steadier than she expected. She looked out at the crowd, saw the elderly black couple from that night. The ones who'd thanked her. Saw Jinwoo and Marcus in the front row, both smiling like she was their entire world. Saw strangers who'd become allies, victims who'd found their voices. "A year ago," she began, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "I stood in this room as an invisible woman, someone who powerful people thought they could abuse without consequence. I was just trying to earn $500 to pay for my brother's cancer treatment. I wasn't trying to start a movement or expose corruption. I was just trying to survive." She paused. "I'm standing here today not because I'm special, but because I refused to disappear. Because when someone tried to humiliate me, I didn't let that humiliation define me. And because," she looked directly at Jinwoo, "because someone saw me when I thought no one was looking." Jinwoo's eyes were bright. "Justice requires allies. Change requires people willing to risk something for others. It requires all of us, every person in this room, choosing to see the invisible, hear the silenced, protect the vulnerable. That's what the Unity Foundation can be now. That's what we can all be for each other." The standing ovation was immediate and thunderous. Cassandra stepped down and was immediately surrounded people, wanting to shake her hand, share their stories, thank her for giving them courage. When the formal program ended and music began, Jinwoo materialized beside her, offering his hand. "Dance with me? I've never done this before," she admitted as he led her to the dance floor. "Danced? Been to something like this as a guest. Then we'll figure it out together." He pulled her close. "I've never done this either. Been to something like this as someone people don't whisper about. They're still whispering." She glanced around at the watching crowd, saw warmth instead of judgment. "But now it's about how you brought down the chorus, how you fought for justice, how you changed, because of you." He spun her gently, and she laughed. They danced, the room watching with appreciation. Other couples joined them, Dr. Morrison dancing with her wife, Marcus pulling a girl from his hospital support group onto the floor with shy determination. Then Jinwoo led her to a specific spot on the floor. She recognized it immediately, the exact place where Daphne had poured wine on her head. "Cassandra Ten said, in this spot," Jinwoo said quietly, holding both her hands. "You were humiliated. I remember. I want to replace that memory with something better." Then he was kneeling, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket, and Cassandra's breath caught. Around them, the dancing stopped. The music continued, but nobody moved. "Cassandra King." Jinwoo's voice was steady, but his hands trembled as he opened the box, revealing a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond set in white gold. "You've taught me what it means to be truly strong, not through violence or fear, but through dignity and courage, through refusing to break when the world tries to crush you." Tears streamed down her face. "You took a broken man and showed him he could be whole. You looked at my blood-stained past and saw the possibility of a better future. You make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. He took a shaky breath. Would you give me the honor of spending my life protecting you, not because you need protection, but because you deserve someone in your corner? Of supporting your dreams, loving your brother, building something real and clean and good? Would you marry me, Cassandra King? And let me try every day for the rest of my life to be worthy of you? The ballroom was silent except for music and Cassandra's ragged breathing. She looked down at this man kneeling in the exact spot where she'd been humiliated, offering her transformation, turning her worst memory into her best. Yes. The word came out, choked with emotion. Yes. 1,000 times. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger with hands that shook. Then he was standing, pulling her into his arms, kissing her while the ballroom erupted in applause and cheers. Marcus's voice carried above the crowd. Finally. I thought he'd never ask. Laughter rippled through the room. Jinwoo broke the kiss to grin at her brother. Cassandra buried her face in Jinwoo's shoulder, laughing and crying simultaneously. The same room where she'd been made invisible now celebrated her visibility. The same floor where wine had stained her uniform now held her and her fiancé as they swayed together. The same chandeliers that had witnessed cruelty now sparkled above love, claimed publicly, proudly. It wasn't forgetting what happened. It wasn't pretending the past didn't exist. It was choosing to write a new story over the old one, ink of joy, covering ink of pain. Both layers visible, but the new one defining the narrative. Later that night, driving home with Marcus asleep in the back seat and the ring heavy on her finger, Cassandra looked at Jinwoo in the driver's seat and felt peace settle over her. Thank you, she said softly, for making something beautiful in that place, for not letting them own that space forever. We made something beautiful, he corrected, bringing her hand to his lips, kissing the ring. Together. That's how we do everything now, together. The city lights blurred past the window. Marcus snored softly in the back seat, healthy enough to sleep soundly. The ring caught light from passing street lamps, winking like a promise. Full circle wasn't going back to the beginning. It was returning to a place of pain, with enough healing to transform it. It was choosing love in the space where hate had tried to win. It was 3 people who'd survived the unsurvivable, building a future from the wreckage of their past. If Cassandra's journey moved you, if you felt that moment when everything came full circle, you're exactly who this channel is for. Hit subscribe, join the family, and drop a comment telling me what part of this story hit you the hardest. They went home to their safe apartment, to their imperfect but real family, to a future that terrified and thrilled in equal measure. And the ring on Cassandra's finger caught the light all the way there. A circle of promises, made and kept, of darkness transformed into light, of endings that were really beginnings in disguise.